Hello, welcome back to Fitness Friday with Johnny Tiger on January 29, 2021. Today, rather than jumping around, lifting weights, and doing a whole bunch of weird configuration with our body, I propose a rest day because rest days are very important, and a lot of time while we are filling our head with various ways to lift this, pull that, push this, dip that, we forget that a lot of the things that we need to also pay attention to is right here in our head. So rather than doing something so physical, today I'm going to sit down and relax and talk about 10 biggest myths that I have heard personally, I have experienced in fitness, working out, bodybuilding, martial art, etc., etc. 10 biggest myths that I want to take this chance to debunk for you, to set the record straight, in other words. Now, some of these myths I bought into myself in the past. I have passed them on to my students unwittingly, unknowingly following these supposed wisdoms myself while not knowing, not understanding that they were false information. And this is what's so important is that we need to constantly keep ourselves open to new evidence and new ideas, especially when it comes to diet, when it comes to working out, when it comes to our own health. You can't say, okay, that's the way I was brought up and that's just the way it's going to be. Well, when you were brought up, maybe they haven't realized that sugar was bad for you. When you were brought up, maybe they hadn't realized that fat wasn't such a bad thing. We must realize that human knowledge is an ongoing trials and errors. Let me give you a quick example, and anything I say in this video today, you can verify on Google if you wish. I'm not going to say that what I say today are the gospel truth. Who knows? Maybe 2 years, 3 years down the road, some new evidence will come up and someone will say that what I say today are all wrong. If that happens, I will happily apologize and I will happily learn the new and better way. But as this time and place, as of right now, this is my understanding to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my ability. Okay? Now, to understand how ridiculously wrong sometimes human beings can be, if you look back prior to 1940s, when people first invented radioactive substances, when radiation was first discovered, people, and not just like people on the farm, not just country folks, educated people, people in government, people in the medical profession used to believe that radioactivity was good for you. And if you remember, nowadays we still use radiation to kill cancer, to cure thyroid issues. You can understand why possibly back then they thought it was God's gift to human beings. So back then, prior to 1940s, you could actually buy radioactive soap. You could actually buy radioactive toothpaste. You could actually buy pills with radioactive substances in them because this was said to be the best thing It will kill any illness in your body. It will keep you safe, keep you healthy, yada yada yada. And it wasn't until scientists and researchers started dying that they realized that this was not what they thought it was. And suddenly we gained a new understanding. But imagine, just imagine all those people, trainers, professionals, common folks back then who bought into the myth and put radioactive toothpaste in their mouth every day. Makes me cringe just think of that. So, similarly, in fitness, there has always been myths. There has been misinformation. Some people, once new information come out, will happily adapt and move on. But there are still a lot of people that say, this is I was taught, this is where I was taught by my father. My father was taught by his grandfather, so they can't be wrong. So I'm just going to do this regardless. Before we begin, I also want to point out that this is not a blanket statement. This is not a one-size-fits-all situation. Just like there are a lot of people who smoke cigarettes who still manage to live the rest of their life without lung cancer. But that does not change the fact that cigarette will increase the chance of you getting lung cancer. Just because some people don't get it, that doesn't change the fact. So maybe as I go down the list, there's going to be things where you say, well, that's not true. I do that and I'm perfectly fine. Well, if that's the case, that's perfect. That's good for you. I'm happy for you. You know, it's everyone is different, and if what you're doing is working for you, then that's great. Myth number one: push-ups can only be done when you keep your body horizontally flat. I can't even I can't even begin to tell you how much I personally suffered at the hand of this one growing up. My father was the first person to ever force me to do push-ups, and he was old school. You must keep your torso perfectly flat like this, uh, going down, up, perfectly flat, and your hand and your toe, and everything have to move while keeping your body rigid and flat. And then when I went into PE classes, PE teachers, and military training, everyone told me that was the only way to do push-ups. And if you don't do it, if you let your hip come up too much, if you let your upper body come up too much, you're doing it wrong, and you have to do it over again. And then, of course, when I started to teach, I started to pass this on to my students and athletes. Now I know better. And now, for those of you whom I gave you a hard time about this in the past, I am man enough to apologize for it. I didn't know. Okay? Now, new evidence have shown that that is not necessarily the best way for you to do push-ups. Because while you're keeping your body locked and straight, going up and down on your hands and your feet like this, you're putting an enormous amount of strain on your lower back, right above your tailbone. Right? Because there's no support underneath it. There's no support. So everything, your weight from your upper body, weight from your lower body is pushing down on that midsection and that tailbone area, messing up your lower back. This is why a lot of people who do push up that way, and especially a lot of push up that way, eventually develop lower back problem. Not to mention wrist problem, shoulder problem, all kinds of problem. So what is the better way to do push up? Well, the better way to do push up is to elevate your hips. Rather than keeping your body as stiff as a board and flat, you still want to keep it relatively stiff. You want to raise up your hip so your lower torso is a little bit higher. Think of a downward lazy dog in yoga pose. Put your butt up toward the ceiling. This way, your lower body, your lower back is not suspended in midair without support because it's actually stacking onto the upper part of your spine. So your upper back, your middle back is helping support your lower back. You know, everything is in a more better alignment. And you also get the added benefit of pushing more weight with your arm. Think about it. When your body is flat, your weight is more or less equally distributed between your front end and your back end. But if you raise up the back end, then more weight is pushing down on the front end, which means if your goal for doing push-ups is to develop strong arms, strong chest, strong shoulders, strong back, I don't know why you would be doing push-ups otherwise, but yeah, if your goal is to develop these muscles, then this is more beneficial because you're actually pushing more weights. Now keep in mind, you will get a little bit dizzy after a while because the semi head down, butt up position. So you want to take some breaks in between and make sure to keep your neck nice and loose and constantly look up, look to the side while you're doing your push-up. Okay, don't be so rigid. Don't lock your neck. Myth number two, sit-ups. This is another one that I suffered greatly as a teenager. Sit-ups. Back then I was told that if you want to get rid of your belly, then the only way is to do sit-ups. If you still have a belly, you gotta do more sit-ups. You still have a belly, you do even more sit-ups. Sit-ups, sit-ups, sit-ups. Until I was doing 300, 350 sit-ups every day. I still had a belly. So here's the thing. Sit-ups will not help you get rid of your belly. When you do a sit-up, you're actually using your back, your lower back, a lot more than your belly. So in the end, when you do a lot of sit-ups, you run a bigger chance of throwing out your spine, throwing out your back, than getting a nice toned flat belly. So if your whole thing is doing sit-ups to try to hopefully get rid of your belly, this is the time to quit. Time to move on to something else, like planks, crunches, squats, swimming. Swimming is a great way to get rid of your belly. Why? Well, we'll talk about belly and body fat in a little bit, because that's another thing that we'll have to address today. But sit-ups, yeah, stop that. No, not going to do it. Myth number three, running. Running is good for you. The more you run, the better it is for you. I spent the majority of my life not being a runner. I only started running regularly, like maybe 3, 4 years ago. But before that, I always tell people if it's the one thing I'm really not good at is running. And it makes sense when you're totally blind, your chance of getting good at running is relatively limited. But anyway, I'm not going to sit here and make up excuses for myself. Um, I hated running. But I always felt I needed to learn how to do it. I felt pressured because I felt that I was a good swimmer, a good martial artist, I'm a good weightlifter, a good at this, good at that. I should be good at running as well. After all, running is really good for you. If you are if you are supposedly really fit, but you can't run for 200k, or if you can't run for 200 meters, not 200k, 200 meters without gasping, then there's something wrong with you. That was what I believed back then. While running, it is extremely beneficial for your heart. It is also equally bad for all kinds of things in your body, all the way from your hip to your knees to your ankles. And if you start to run hardcore, like you're one of those people that want to run 5 miles a day every day of the week, rain or shine, and then you want to run uphill, note when you're running uphill, you are killing your heart. Okay? Please don't do that. Running uphill is really bad for your heart. Your heart is just as much as a muscle as any other muscle in your body. There's a point where it's benefiting, and there's a point where when you pass that point, it's going to hurt it. Now, when you hurt your bicep, when you pull a muscle in your back, when you pull a muscle in your leg, it just makes moving around a little bit difficult for a few days, and if you're lucky, you'll recover. If you pull a muscle, if you pull that muscle, that is your heart, then that's an instant cardiac arrest. That's an instant heart attack. Most likely, you will die, or you will end up half paralyzed or having some other issues. Okay, so this is one muscle in your body. You do not want to risk pulling by overworking it. I'm not saying that running is bad for you specifically, but running need to be done very carefully and not uh, don't overdo it. You know, this is not something you want to go super hardcore with. I have a friend who spent his whole life being a runner, marathon, sun run, fundraisers, long distance, short distance. He was really into it. Now he's almost 50 years old. He says to me, he said, Johnny, I wish I knew back then what this would have done to me. Because if I knew the kind of pain I would be in today, then I wouldn't have run so much. Number four, stretching before a workout. I already know my beautiful girlfriend is going to smack me upside the head for this one. She's like the expert stretcher. Uh, really good at stretching. She loves stretching. But here's the thing. When you stretch, you're elongating your muscle, making them more flexible. Flexible muscles do not bear as much weight as rigid muscles. So when you stretch, and this is scientifically proven, when you stretch before a workout, in particular any of weight-bearing workout, you are reducing the effectiveness of your muscle. Get this, guys. When you stretch before a weight-bearing workout, you reduce the effectiveness of your muscles by 30%. That's scary. 30%. And you also increase the chance of your muscle getting hurt. Just because now they are longer, more flexible, and they can't take as much weight. So there's more of a chance of them tearing and hurting. So the better way is to do a nice warm up before a workout and then stretch. Always stretch after the workout. Number five, quantity, volume is everything. I think everyone has suffered this one at the hand of trainers and friends and so on and so on. If you can do 20 push-ups today, you got to have to be able to do 40 next month. Next year you have to be able to do 100. If you have big belly, you do 20 sit-ups, and then you do 40 sit-ups, and then eventually you're doing 100 and hundreds of sit-ups. If you're a runner, you got to run 5 miles, and eventually you want to run 6 miles, and 10 miles, and 20 miles, until at the end you can run 100 miles. If you are lifting weight, you start with 3 pounds, and you go on to 10 pounds, and eventually you want to lift 1,000 pounds. Right? That's how these things go, but that is a very wrong way of looking at things. Why? Because there's an upper limit to every human being. And unfortunately, neither you or I know for sure what is our upper limit. we may think that we can do another 20 push-ups, not knowing that we've already done 1,000, and all it's going to take for things to start breaking is another two. The line is there, but we can't see it. So by always pushing, 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 what you are essentially looking for is that one day, suddenly, bang, things break, and you can't do it anymore, ever again. Okay? So rather than going for quantity, rather than going for more weight, longer workout, more push-up, more sit-ups, find a comfortable medium ground where you work up a good sweat and you're not burning out. You're not burned out by the end of it. Okay? Maybe once in a while you can try to find your max, but it's not recommended to constantly pushing, pushing, pushing. Because you know what? You keep pushing, your body one day is going to push back, and when your body pushes back, you won't like it. Number six, this one is diet related. Just drinking shakes or doing a liquid diet will help you lose weight faster. It's better for you for your fitness. Okay, technically speaking, yes, it will help you lose weight faster while you're doing it. But, and here's a big but, okay, unless your plan is to stay on that liquid diet for the rest of your life, it is not the way to do it. Because all you're doing is conditioning your stomach to that liquid diet. And eventually, when you one day finally decide to start putting solid food in your stomach again, well, now your stomach doesn't want to work. Your teeth don't want to work. Everything's going wrong. Plus, when you eat solid food, there's more fiber. There's more work for your body to digest it. Now, this sounds like it's a bad thing, but it's not. When your body have to output more work to digest your food, this means the act of digesting alone is burning energy. This means your metabolism is working harder. This means you actually lose fat, you lose more weight faster by giving your body something to digest. This is why we recommend people eat smaller meal but eat more constant, because this way you make sure that there's always something in your stomach, there's always some digesting going on. Your body is always digesting food, outputting the energy, and your metabolism is always working. But if you just do a liquid diet, your body is not working that hard to digest things, which means a lot of the things you put in there will just sit there without getting used up. So liquid diet overall just not very good. So don't do it. Number seven, eat the egg white, not the egg yolk. Egg is one of those things that get uh, conflicting messages every few years. One year they say it's good, one year they say it's bad, one year they say it's okay, next year they say it's the worst thing you can eat. Let me ask you this then. We human beings, actually not just human beings, animal as a whole has been eating other animals' eggs for millions of years. And do you really think that a cat or a coyote or a lizard or a turtle would concern with, okay, I just cracked open this alligator or bird's egg, whatever, and I should just lick up the egg white and leave the egg yolk alone? They don't. Okay? So here's the thing about egg. What makes an egg good? The omega-3, the protein, the fat, it's all stored in the yolk. Okay? Egg white itself, almost nothing in it. So when you only eat egg white, it's kind of a waste of food. Anyway, that's my personal pet peeve. But if you only eat the egg white, you're eating something without benefiting a lot from what you're eating. There's also been research shown that the fat in the egg yolk actually helps lower your cholesterol because it's a good kind of fat. Good kind of fat. So don't blindly believe that just because you're only eating egg white and not the yolk, that you're doing the right thing. You are wasting a lot of really good nutrients. You're wasting all those omega-3. You're wasting almost two-thirds of the protein in an egg. Just not a very good idea. Number 8, you burn more fat by working out on an empty stomach. I run into so many people that say, I don't want to eat. I just work out and I'll burn more fat. It doesn't work that way. What's happened when you work out on an empty stomach? There's two problems working out on an empty stomach or working out hungry. Okay? We don't even need to say empty stomach, just hungry, working out hungry. One problem is you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough fuel, your fuel tank. So your performance is lackluster at best. Maybe if you work out on a well-fed stomach, I won't say full stomach because that's bad too. But if you have something in your system while you're working out, you might be able to run longer, work out faster, harder, burn more fat. But because you're hungry, now you're sluggish, now you're lethargic, and now you're not putting as much into your workout, so you do not get as much benefit. Also, the second problem, and this is really big, when you are hungry, your body will reabsorb your muscles before it go after the fat, because your body knows, just as you do, that eating good solid meat is better than eating fat. Okay? Your body knows that on an instinctual level. So your body will eat your muscle before eating your fat. Right? That's problematic. But the whole point is to get rid of fat and keep the muscle. Number 9, women have to do less weight and more repetition. A lot of women, when they come to train, they say, I don't want to lift a lot of weight because I don't want to bulk up. I just want to do a lot of repetition with my 3-pound dumbbell, and that will be just fine. Sorry to say it, but for most people that doesn't work. First, you don't need to worry about bulking up just because you lift weights. Because of the natural lack of testosterone for most women, when you have low testosterone, you won't be able to bulk up even if you want to. That's the thing. That's the chemistry at work. That's the way you are built. So go ahead and lift those 200 pounds, 300 pounds. You are not going to bulk up, okay? Unless you have high testosterone to begin with. Without testosterone, without as much testosterone, you're not going to get those super big tree trunk arms like guys can easily. So you don't have to worry about that. Second, when you are working with little 1 pound, 3 pound weight, unless your goal is to do cardio with them, okay, that's great for cardio. But if you think that lifting them is weight training, that is not going to work, because the only way for your body to start burning fat, the only way for your muscle to start growing is when there's stress. Okay, so most of the time you want to work your muscles, work your system at around 80%, 70 to 80% capacity before you can start seeing results. Which means if you can actually pick up a 25-pound dumbbell, okay, if your muscle max capacity is 25-pound dumbbell. Doing that little 3-pound dumbbell, you might get tired after moving around for an hour, but it's not going to do anything. It's not going to burn fat. It's not going to grow your muscle. You're just wasting time because you're not stressing your muscle enough. Your muscle, your body, not reaching the optimum point where it needs to reach before things start happening. So rather than working with those tiny little 3 or 4 pound, if your goal is to lift weight, uh, do calisthenic or weight bearing exercises, challenge yourself, okay? 80%, 70%. If your max is 20 pounds, for example, right? If your max is 20 pounds, you at least want to be working with 14, 15 pounds. Last one, and this one is very popular. I can just work a certain part of my body to get that body part to be less fat. In other words, if you have a fat stomach, then you just concentrate on sit-ups and crunches, all those stuff, and the fat will go away. Bad news, guys, it doesn't. Okay, your body doesn't work that way. If you have 20% body fat, it doesn't matter how many sit-ups or crunches you do. Without reducing your 20% body fat down to 15%, 12%, etc., that belly is still going to be there. The belly fat is going to be there. Your body is not going to say, hey, he or she is working the abs. Let's only burn the fat around the abs. Okay? They are working the legs. Let's just burn the fat around the legs. It doesn't work that way. If it burns fat all over. Okay? It doesn't target a certain area. Fat doesn't work that way. Just like when you put on fat, okay, you can't focus on, I think I want fatter arm. I'll just work the rest of my body and don't work my arm, and all the fat will go to my arm. Sorry, no, doesn't work that way. All the fat will still go to your belly and waistline first. Like I said, a lot of these I've personally been victims of in the past, and I hope that after this video, there have been a few light bulbs that go on in your head, and hopefully in the future, this will help you find a newer way, better way to work out. Thank you for checking out today's Fitness Friday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Survival Saturday. For now, have a good night.